Hi everyone, it's Gary Nicholson here for the Mountain Weather Information Service. This is your planning outlook on Tuesday the 24th of September. It's the usual mixture of weather as we descend further into autumn proper. We've had some sunny days and morning inversions, and we're now getting into the more wet and windy side of autumn, and that's the ongoing story for many places over the next week or so ahead, and some chillier temperatures on the way as well as we go into next week. Now, quite a bit of complexity in the weather story at the moment, and that won't get any easier in the days ahead. And the forward story will be looking at what's going on in the tropics. This is the current chart, the model chart across the Atlantic. We've got three tropical systems around at the moment. One which is around Bermuda, that's Jerry. We've got Karen, which is in the Caribbean, and eventually more interesting may well be Lorenzo, which is just off the western side of Africa, and that could have a role to play in our weather patterns around 10 days down the line. Let's have a look at the short-term charts though. This is for Wednesday. We've got a bit of a tangled day really. We've got low pressure, a slack feature with the leftovers of fronts really from what's been around today on Tuesday. So slow moving areas of rain and drizzle and pretty extensive low cloud across many hills. Around the west and northwestern coastal fringes of the highlands, looking likely to be in the best place for drier, brighter conditions much of the day, with a bit of sunshine trying to come through, and equally across the southern half of the Pennines and across Wales, also brighter skies are developing through the day. Winds are pretty light in the centre of this low, could be rather blustery towards the far northeast of Scotland and maybe the far south of Wales. Otherwise, it's not particularly cold and the winds aren't that strong. They will strengthen though overnight into Thursday as the next frontal system comes steaming in from the Atlantic with some further heavy rain. So a spell of heavy rain will sweep through most places through the night into Thursday, clearing for much of England and Wales, although showers will follow through the day here on brisk southwesterly winds and temperatures rather on the cool side behind the cold front. The front that's across the Highlands, though, will be slower to get out of the way, and particularly toward the north and east. It could be that rain lasts for many hours, followed by some clusters of heavy showers. Those, again, spreading from the southwest through the course of Thursday. Low pressure is generally on the scene then as we end the week, and fairly cool air is within this, and it's an unstable, showery air mass that is in place, so the risk of some heavy bursts could merge into some frequent rain across western hills in particular. Wouldn't rule out some hail and a rumble of thunder in some of the heavier showers that are around. They'll track eastwards increasingly through the day, so say for the Cairngorms you may get away with a dry start, but showers will likely increasingly break out. Fairly light winds across the Highlands, although it's cool. Stronger winds the further south you go, which may well strengthen increasingly as the day goes on to gale force across Wales and later the South Pennines. Detail is fairly uncertain as we head onwards into the weekend. That low pressure is pulling away eastwards. It leaves a legacy of a westerly airflow and still some showers, I suspect, into Saturday, maybe a bit more scattered by the stage. Cloud bases should be fairly well up with some breaks to higher tops, with the air mass not being that humid. Still quite a cool feel then, with that west by perhaps northwesterly drift across the British Isles. Watching though the next low pressure system coming in from the southwest, timing over the weekend will be critical with this one, but it could be that things go downhill again as that moves in. Watch your detail for Saturday then. Some places may get away not too bad. Lightest winds across Scotland, strongest winds likely across England and Wales. Now we need to watch the detail very carefully into Sunday. There's low pressure coming in from the Atlantic. The exact shape and position of the centre of the low is uncertain, most likely focusing its rain across England and Wales for Sunday, with some heavy and persistent falls possible in some places. Strongest winds again further toward the south. Meanwhile, across Scotland, you may well escape with maybe a substantially dry day with just a few showers, depending how far north that frontal zone gets by this stage, and looking like very light winds in the centre of that low. Can't promise that absolutely, but that's the general theme that we're seeing at this stage. Now just notice towards the north of the map, we're just seeing the airflow starting to come around from the north by northeast, and that maybe is what sets the scene then onwards into the start of next week. So as we step back and look at the bigger picture into next week, this is the situation for Sunday with that small zone of low pressure which is across the southern half of the British Isles, a broader parent low around Scandinavia, and coming around that is the cooler air mass from the Norwegian Sea approaching us from the north or northeast. Now, it looks most likely that low pressure systems will continue to move in off the Atlantic into the start of next week, again tracking across central and southern parts of the British Isles, with the risk of some further heavy rain across England and Wales at times. Scotland may be escaping relatively lighter with this, but some showers would be possible. And as that airflow turns a bit more to the north, there is the scope for a couple of days next week maybe of dropping below freezing on the Munros in Scotland, and it could become colder even more widely than that for a couple of days at least. So some showers of snow and hail at Munro level, maybe even a bit lower temporarily. Now then we're seeing a bit of a swap around, and this is where the remnants of tropical storm, or what will have been by then Hurricane Lorenzo, starts to move in, and it's the system shown here around the Azores. If I just knock that back briefly, you can sort of see where it was looking a bit more hurricane-like a couple of days previous. That then gets into the jet stream, as these things do, pushes a zone of high pressure ahead of that, so it might well settle things down for a couple of days with some drier conditions for many through the middle of next week once we've got rid of the northerly flow, and then it's the south by southwesterly that comes in. So you can see how the complexity is there in the detail over just a series of days next week. The risk is eventually that ex-hurricane comes in and we see some wet and windy weather return, with albeit some warmer temperatures just running in ahead of that. That's all a very complicated outlook then for next week. Eventually it looks as though the southwesterly conveyor belt is what we end up with. So as befits the season, all a bit of a mixture really. It's going to be chopping and changing from day to day over the next 10 days or so. Some chilly weather is likely early on next week, and then we're just watching what these former hurricanes do over the Atlantic in terms of the 10-day outlook. Stay up to date with us then every day with your local forecasts on our website, and we'll update the planning video for you again on Friday afternoon. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.